I'm Tracey Wilson from Working Visions. I've been operating since 2001, basically in regional Queensland. So I started off as a work-life balance organisation in Gladstone. I got pestered by several sort of multinational companies to come and work with them when I was trying to have some time off with my daughter. And then really it's just blossomed from there. So I've worked primarily in regional Queensland, but I have corporate clients around Australia. The Dengue Out project was a collaboration between the Well Mosquito Program, the Tropical Public Health Service, and the wonderful Northern Area Peninsula Regional Council based at Bamaga right up on the tip of Cape York. So the program was an extension of the Well Mosquito Wolbachia program, which commenced operating in 2011 in Cairns. That program is now spread globally, and the Tropical Public Health Service has taken up the release component of the project in Queensland. So what we did was take Wolbachia infected mosquitoes, which sounds a little bit scary, but Wolbachia is a safe bacteria that's present in about 60% of insects. So that bacteria is injected into the dengue mosquito, and then those mosquitoes are released into the native population of mosquitoes. They breed, and then the subsequent young are infected, for want of a better word, with the Wolbachia bacteria. The engagement tools and methods that we used for the project were fairly weather dependent and also adapted to the area that we were working in. So the Northern Peninsula area region is made up of 5 communities, made up of Torres Strait and Aboriginal Islander communities. So we had to adapt our methodology to suit those conditions, but also the engagement component is very reliant upon the scientific component of the project. So, of course, the weather impacted on that when the mosquitoes are breeding. We had to sort of just get ready for the wet season. And we were also a little held up for some of the approvals on the project. So we were a little behind in our engagement component of it. So we had to engage over the wet season. So anyone that's been to North Queensland knows that between November and February, it's very, very wet. So we had to think of ways to try and keep the project front of mind, particularly over the Christmas period too. That also impacted. A lot of people leave. So we use things like roadside signs with the Dengue Out sign on it. So things saying Bamaga, keep dengue out of NPA, and Sacia, one of the other communities, keep dengue out of NPA. So it was a way to, as people were driving past, they'd think, oh yeah, that's right, the Dengue Out project's happening soon. So that was a simple way to reach a lot of people. We used a community reference group, and that was, our community champions. So they did a lot of work in the community. We also had a local community engagement officer that came from the community, and we also used their shirts as marketing and also an education tool. Primarily the principle of respect. So, being very aware that we were going into a welcoming but an Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander community who often are over consulted, and they have a lot of other concerns apart from dengue. But NPA was the first Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander community to host this program, and they were very proud, and they were very excited to be able to do that. So we very respectfully gathered a community reference group who were our community champions, who had a lot of networks throughout the community, and the council came on board as well as traditional owners. So the whole project was based around a lot of respect. The way that we engaged internally was to make sure that we had very regular meetings. So remembering that this was a collaboration between the Well Mosquito Program, the Tropical Public Health Service, myself as a sub-consultant to the Tropical Public Health Service, and the NPA Council. So there was a lot of collaborators. well mosquito program staff were situated overseas, some in the Pacific, some in Ho Chi Minh City and some in Melbourne. So we had to be aware of the time frames, but we used teleconferencing. I had a regular meeting with my local coordinator every Monday, and then they were able to phone me whenever they needed to. But we managed the project from a governance perspective very strongly to make sure that we had regular meetings and the project didn't fall off the rails. If I could change the way that we engaged in some way, I would probably try and not have as much rain as we had with the project. It was an extremely wet season, so that really impacted on our ability to do some of the things that we wanted to do. But we had to really just think outside the square and adapt. So probably I think if you're going into an engagement process in the far north, make sure that you take the weather into account. The most rewarding aspect working on the project was the work that we did with the community reference group. They were so supportive. They were well networked and respected people, but the work that they did helping us to get people to sign up for the hosting of the Mozzie boxes and the monitoring containers was just really well done. They also took on the role of Wolbachia warriors. So everyone had a shirt, and we explained how to explain the life cycle, and the red means dengue and green means Wolbachia. So you'd go into town and you'd see the community reference group out there with the shirts on and talking to people in the street. So I really like working with the community reference group, and some people I've noticed and talked to over the years, I think they don't use them to their capacity. So I like to have a very strong community reference group relationship. Some of the challenges apart from the rain were the training of local staff. So we had to bring them down to Cairns, and some people just don't like to travel, even though they're people that are well educated and really good engagers in their community. But just that trip to Cairns is a little bit difficult. So we did a lot of on location training with the field staff and the local team. We also included as many council people as we could in the training, so that there was a whole gambit of people trained in the Wolbachia project. So that was probably our biggest challenge, was just making sure that the local team were engaged and trained well. My top 3 tips to sum everything up would be respect. Make sure you respect the community that you're going into. If you're going into an Indigenous community, collaborate first. Don't go in and inform people and expect them to just say, yes, welcome to our community. Make sure that you collaborate and really let people know what's going on. And the third one is that communication. Just make sure that you communicate clearly, and particularly if you're doing a science-based project, you need to use simple tools to get out there to explain what you're doing in the community. The advice that I'd give practitioners in this field is to make sure that you listen to the people who you're dealing with. Make sure that you explain why you're there. Make sure that they understand why you're there, and then you make sure that you understand the community that you're working in. I see, particularly in regional Queensland, a lot of people coming in from, cities, dare I say, and applying techniques that simply just don't apply to the areas that they're working in. So I think that it's just that respecting the community and the people that you're working with is very important.